I have 60 seconds to speak. Go ahead and start your timer. I'll start mine as soon as I hear you speaking.
Okay. I'm starting 1, 2, 3. Swarm intelligence is a technique used by some species where they work as a group to accomplish a difficult task. They perform a specific behavior. Each individual performs a specific task to accomplish something more complex. In the example of the professor, we see ants that are practicing this concept because they are trying to obtain food from one branch to the other one. And what they do, they try to create a bridge, a chain, using each individual task to achieve a complex task, which is build up a bridge to achieve this food. This is how swarm intelligence works, because each individual perform a task thinking as something more complex as a group.
Time, okay. Okay. What did you do well on? What do you want to continue to do well on? And what do you feel you need to improve on?
I think I need to improve the example, how to explain the example of the lecture, how to connect it to the concept.
Okay, and I'm looking at the reading passage, the definition. So we're going to review your answer later for language use and grammar, but right now I'm focused on the definition from the reading passage. I heard you say, when we review this later, let's check to see this, Sebastian. I think you said that each individual has a certain behavior, but it's a little bit different than that. That reminds me of a different question, number 3. This one is saying this one does talk about individual members of the group, but it says that no individual group member can accomplish the complex task on their own.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the definition. Go ahead and tell me if you see that, the reading passage, and let's talk about it.
Well, I didn't mean to say that a specific individual try to accomplish something more complex. I was trying to say that the whole group accomplish a difficult task, but all together. Maybe I didn't explain it correctly.
But all together, okay. Let me see. Okay. All together. Okay, we'll check that. I'll note that. We'll check that later. Now I see what the idea that you were communicating. The main part of the definition, the first sentence in the reading passage that gives us the definition. Accomplishing complex tasks together. Okay. The part that I didn't hear you mention, the part that we want to improve on from the definition, from the reading passage, is going to be the end where it says, the level of complexity is a level that no individual group member can do on its own. Okay, so when we're explaining swarm intelligence, swarm is like a different way to say a group. And the way that I'm going to be able to explain it is by saying how together their ability is greater than one individual insect. So when the question tells us to explain this concept, a way that I explain that is by comparing and contrasting what the group can do compared to what only an individual can do. Okay, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so what I understand is swarm intelligence is when a group of insects work as a group to accomplish a complex task that they can achieve by doing it individually.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then in the notes that you took during the 45 seconds to read, what else did you get? Did you get anything aside from the definition? Did you get any important details or phrases after the definition?
Well, the only thing I wrote some specific words like behavior, group, task, simple behavior, complex.
Okay, I heard you say simple behavior. Let's take a look at the reading passage. Quote, simple behavior is from the professor's lecture. And from the reading passage, is there anything after the definition that you see matches well with, integrates well with from the reading passage?
Simple, instinctual.
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 Good.
Instinctual.
Okay. So from the reading, it says instinctual behavior. And then the way that the professor talks about this is by saying this behavior is easy, simple for them. Basically saying instinctual. I think he says natural for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another way to integrate the reading passage with the example from the professor. What do you think?
Behavior, what complexity, individual group members. To achieve. Well, I remember that he talks about behavior as a group, complexity of the task, which was created this bridge, simple essential behavior.
Do you have a specific question? Would you like to give your answer a second time, or would you like to hear my answer?
I would like to listen your answer.
Okay. All right, so let's do it. If you can give me 30 seconds and then 60 seconds, and I'll use a timer here also. Okay, so for our friends benefiting from this study session, during the 30 seconds to prepare, I'm going to think aloud. I'm almost going to pretend like I don't have any time to prepare, and instead this is my real answer. That's how I'm going to make the most out of this 30 seconds to prepare. I suggest you guys do this, especially pharmacists in the test center, because it's noisy and distracting there. Even if I was alone in the test center, I would still think aloud. I would still use this as a practice run, pretending it's my real answer. This helps me form my sentences to expand my explanation during the preparation time. Okay, let me remind myself of the question here, Sebastian, and then be ready to give me 30 seconds. Okay. Okay, ready. 30 seconds to prepare.
Now you have 30 seconds to prepare. You may begin preparing now.
Swarm intelligence is when a group of insects accomplish complex tasks together through complex behaviors. The behavior of the insects as a group demonstrates a greater level of complexity than the behavior of individual group members. The professor talks about the swarm of insects crossing the bridge, the group of ants crossing the bridge to get their food. No individual ant can cross that wide space alone. However, by using the group's swarm intelligence, they are able to accomplish this complex task time. Tell me when I have 60 seconds and start.
Now you have 60 seconds to speak. You may begin speaking now.
Swarm intelligence is when a large group of insects accomplish a complex task together through complex behaviors. The behavior of the insects demonstrates a greater level of complexity than the behavior of individual group members. The professor talks about a group of ants. The complex behavior that they need to demonstrate is crossing the wide space so that they can get their food source. No one ant can cross that wide space alone. However, by working together in a group, by using the group's swarm intelligence, the ants are able to cross that wide space. When the ant holds on to the branch and leans over, stretches its body towards the food source for the other ants to continue making the bridge, this behavior is instinctual. The professor says that it's a behavior that comes naturally and is easy for the ant. Therefore, this individual ant is able to work in a chain with the other group members, and by using their swarm intelligence, they accomplish the complicated task. You said time, right? Okay. Sebastian, what's one thing from hearing my answer that will help you improve your answer if you want to give a second one now?
I like that the emphasis you put in saying during the definition that swarm intelligence is something that it can be performed only as a group and not individually. Because I was thinking in the definition and I didn't consider that as important, but it is important because the example explained how important is that the whole group work together to accomplish something more complex.
Yes.
And also in the lecture, you explain in the example that the ends, they can't cross that empty space individually. They need like each other to cross the empty space.
Good. Okay, so let's talk about, I heard you say the first thing that you liked from my answer, the first thing that helps you improve your answers for this question number 3, and also probably future questions number 3, was at the beginning, you said that I emphasized the definition.
Mhm.
So let's take a look at the reading passage.
Mhm.
That sentence that gives us most of the definition, because the definition is usually in a combination of 2 sentences, but you can see the one that gives us most of the definition. Do you see where it says demonstrates a greater level of complexity than the behavior of individual group members?
Yes.
The reading passage says that a second time in the very last sentence.
This is one the individual insect. Yeah.
Would not be able to achieve. Individuals wouldn't be able to achieve.
Yeah. I see
Okay.
that.
So that's why I, like you said, emphasized that part in the definition and used that to explain. Okay, use that to explain, not to summarize, paraphrase, or quote, to explain.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think you're getting ready for your second answer. Would you like to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do 30 seconds to prepare. Okay, 30 seconds to prepare. You may begin preparing now.
Swarm intelligence is when a group of insects perform act together to achieve a specific task. They're able to achieve a complex task only by working together and not separately. This is the example of it because our ants are trying to go from one branch to the other. In the middle is an empty space.
Time.
They form a change.
You now have 60 seconds to speak. Go ahead and start your timer. I'll start mine when I hear you speaking.
Okay. Swarm intelligence is when a group of insects perform a specific task individually to achieve something more complex. This is only possible when each individual insect works together to achieve and reach a specific task together. In the example, we see a group of ants where they're trying to go from one branch to the other in the middle of an empty space. And we see that they practice the swarm intelligence because they try to form a bridge, a chain using their bodies. So they are trying to perform individual tasks, but the end of this practice is a complexity action where they try to cross this bridge. And this explains how the swarm intelligence work, where they all act together to reach something more complex.
Okay, so my advice, we'll review this as soon as the live stream is over. We'll review this for language use and grammar in more detail. But my advice on the big picture ideas, progression of ideas, topic development is that I suggest you use the words from the definition from the reading passage at the beginning of your 60-second answer.
Okay. You mean okay.
Quote, so from the reading passage, it says, quote, demonstrates a greater level of complexity. Okay, so let's think about your 60-second answer. When you're establishing the definition, I suggest using as much of the reading passage's words as possible at the beginning. If after the first 15 seconds when you're stating the definition, if after that you want to start using your own words, okay, But let's first use the exact words that the reading passage has given us, because we know that's a correct way to explain,
Yeah.
to begin explaining, to set up the definition, the concept, so that we can later explain.
Okay.
Okay. So my first piece of advice is at the beginning of your 60-second answer, establish the definition by using the exact words in the definition from the reading passage.
Okay.
Okay, and then when we review this, we're going to see that you will improve your answer by including the one important phrase detail that comes after the definition. In this question number 3 reading passage, it's, quote, instinctual behavior. And like you told me earlier, that connects well from the lecture with natural behavior, easy behavior for the ants to hold on and lean forward toward the food source. Okay, so I see you taking good notes there. Any comments or questions? What do you think about this question number 3?
No, I think just by writing what you just told me, it kind of like organize everything in my mind.
Okay. Okay, let's review it then. Unless there's anything else to say or ask, I'm going to look to end this live stream now, and we will review your answer in depth.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Let's end this here.